Maya thought her disastrous blind date was finally ending when her friend's emergency text gave her the perfect escape. She was halfway to the door of the upscale Manhattan restaurant when every conversation stopped mid-sentence. The clinking of silverware ceased. Even the ambient jazz seemed to fade. She turned to see what commanded such absolute silence, and locked eyes with a man in a charcoal suit whose presence made the air itself feel heavier. He wasn't just looking at her. He was claiming her with his gaze. And when he smiled, slow and dangerous, she realized her friend hadn't sent that text at all. He had. If you're listening to this story, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments what part of the world you're listening from. The rain had started just after sunset, turning the streets of Manhattan's Upper East Side into rivers of reflected neon and headlights. Maya Chen stood under the burgundy awning of Marcello's, watching droplets race down the restaurant's tall windows, delaying the inevitable moment she'd have to go back inside. The air smelled of wet pavement and expensive perfume from the couple brushing past her into the warmth. She'd been on exactly 4 blind dates in her 26 years, and this one, arranged by her well-meaning but hopelessly optimistic college roommate, was shaping up to be the worst. Brad or Chad, or whatever his name was, had spent 45 minutes discussing his cryptocurrency portfolio and his CrossFit regimen. He hadn't asked her a single question. Not one. Maya pulled her phone from her clutch, the small beaded bag her grandmother had given her before she passed. The weight of it always reminded her of Sunday dinners in Chinatown, of her grandmother's hands folding dumplings while telling stories about resilience, about building something from nothing. "You are stronger than you know, Bao Bei," she'd say. Maya didn't feel strong tonight. She felt tired. The restaurant's interior glowed with amber light. Through the window, she could see her date checking his reflection in a knife. She typed out a message to her friend Jen. "Send me an emergency text. Please, I'm dying here." The response came immediately. "Already on it. Give it 2 minutes." Maya smiled despite herself and pushed back through the heavy door. The warmth hit her immediately, along with the scent of garlic, wine, and fresh bread. Marcello's was the kind of place where reservations were made months in advance, where the waitstaff moved like dancers, and every table held quiet conversations over flickering candles. Her date had chosen it to impress her. It hadn't worked. She slid back into her seat across from him. He was scrolling through his phone now, not even pretending to wait for her return. "Sorry," she said, though she wasn't sure why she was apologizing. "The rain's really coming down." He glanced up, then back down. "Yeah, I saw the weather alert. Should clear up by 10. Maya reached for her water glass, the crystal cool against her palm. The table next to them held an elderly couple who ate in comfortable silence, occasionally sharing bites from each other's plates. That's what she wanted someday. Someone who knew her well enough that silence felt like conversation. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it perhaps too eagerly. Jen's message read, "Emergency. Call me now." Maya's face arranged itself into concern. "Oh no. I'm so sorry I have to take this. My friend..." She was already standing, already moving toward the entrance. Her date's disinterested, "Sure, whatever," following her out. The rain had intensified. Maya stood under the awning again, this time with no intention of going back inside. She'd text him from the cab, something polite about a family emergency. She'd block his number. She'd tell Jen no more setups. She was scrolling through her phone for a car service when the street went quiet. It was subtle at first. The traffic didn't stop, but it seemed to slow. The couple who'd been arguing near the corner fell silent. Even the rain seemed to soften, though Maya knew that was impossible. A black SUV pulled up to the curb in front of Marcello's, then another behind it. Both vehicles were pristine despite the weather, water beating and sliding off their polished surfaces like they were coated in something that rejected the ordinary world. The rear door of the first SUV opened. A man emerged, and Maya understood immediately why the street had quieted. He didn't demand attention. He simply took it, the way gravity takes hold of falling objects. Inevitable, inescapable. He was tall, perhaps 6'2", with dark hair that was just slightly too long to be conventional, curling at his collar. The charcoal suit he wore fit him like it had been born on his body, tailored to emphasize broad shoulders and a lean, powerful frame. But it was his face that held her. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw with the shadow of stubble, and eyes so dark they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. He looked directly at her. Maya's breath caught. She should look away. Every instinct screamed at her to look away, but she couldn't. He moved toward the restaurant entrance with the kind of grace that suggested violence was always an option, just never necessary. 2 men in dark suits flanked him, their eyes scanning the street with professional precision. One of them opened Marcello's door, and the man in the charcoal suit paused at the threshold. He turned his head, just slightly, and looked at Maya again. This time, the corner of his mouth lifted. Not quite a smile, something more dangerous than that. Something that said he knew exactly who she was and why she was standing in the rain. Then he was inside, and the world resumed its normal volume. Maya realized she'd been holding her breath. She exhaled slowly, her heart hammering against her ribs. What the hell was that? Her phone buzzed again, but it wasn't Jen this time. It was an unknown number. The message read, "Your friend didn't send that emergency text. I did. Come inside, Maya. Your real evening is about to begin." Her hands trembled as she stared at the screen. How did he know her name? How did he have her number? And why did some reckless part of her want to walk back through those doors? The rain fell harder, soaking through her coat, but Maya didn't move. She stood at the edge of something she didn't understand, feeling the weight of a choice that would change everything. Behind her, the ordinary world continued. Cars splashing through puddles, people hurrying home, the city's endless rhythm. Ahead, through those glowing windows, sat a man who had somehow reached into her evening and rewritten it. Maya looked down at her grandmother's clutch, feeling its familiar weight. "You are stronger than you know." She took a breath, pushed her wet hair from her face, and walked back into Marcello's. The restaurant had transformed, or perhaps she was simply seeing it clearly for the first time. Every eye in the room tracked her movement, but not with curiosity, with calculation. The elderly couple was gone. Her date was gone. In fact, most of the tables were now empty, except for men in dark suits who sat with their backs to walls, their attention fixed on the corner booth, where he sat waiting. The man in the charcoal suit occupied the restaurant's most private table, partially hidden by a decorative screen, but visible enough to remind everyone of his presence. He held a glass of red wine, and as Maya approached, he set it down with deliberate care. "Maya Chen," he said, his voice low and smooth, with the faint trace of an accent she couldn't place. "Thank you for joining me." "I don't know you," she said, proud that her voice remained steady. "No," he agreed, "but I know you. Please, sit." It wasn't a request. Maya slid into the booth across from him, her wet coat clinging to her shoulders. Up close, he was even more striking, and more unsettling. There was something ancient in his eyes, something that had seen too much and forgotten nothing. "Who are you?" she asked. He smiled then, a real smile that somehow made him look both younger and infinitely more dangerous. "My name is Victor Kane, and you, Maya Chen, are about to become very important to me." Outside, the rain continued to fall on the city that never slept, washing away the ordinary evening Maya had planned and leaving behind something else entirely, something that tasted like wine and danger and the beginning of a story she couldn't yet see the end of. Victor Kane raised his glass in a silent toast, and despite every logical thought screaming at her to run, Maya found herself reaching for the wine that had appeared before her, meeting his dark eyes over the rim, and drinking deeply. The choice was made. The wine was Italian, a Barolo that tasted like dark cherries and leather, and something Maya couldn't name but that made her think of old libraries and older secrets. Victor watched her taste it, his expression unreadable. "You're wondering if you should be afraid," he said. Maya set down her glass. "I'm wondering why I'm here, and how you knew my name, my number, what I was doing tonight. I make it my business to know things." He leaned back, the leather booth creaking softly. "Especially when something valuable enters my territory. Your territory." Maya heard the edge in her own voice. "This is Manhattan. It doesn't belong to anyone." Victor's smile was patient, almost fond, like she'd said something charmingly naive. "Everything belongs to someone, Maya. This restaurant, mine. The building it occupies, mine. 3 blocks in every direction, also mine." He paused, letting that sink in. "Your date tonight was at a table I own, drinking wine from my cellar, completely unaware that he was boring you in my house." Maya's mind raced. She'd heard stories, of course. Everyone in New York had. Whispers about families who ran things from the shadows, who owned politicians and police precincts, who made people disappear. But those were stories, myths, things that happened in movies, not to junior art curators who lived in a rent-controlled studio in Brooklyn. "If you're trying to intimidate me, I'm trying to be honest with you. Victor's voice remained calm, but something flickered in his eyes. You deserve that much, given what I'm about to ask of you. A waiter appeared, not the same one who'd served her earlier. This man was older, with silver hair, and the bearing of someone who'd seen everything twice. He placed a plate between them. Fresh burrata with heirloom tomatoes, basil and olive oil that gleamed gold in the candlelight. You haven't eaten, Victor observed. Your date ordered for himself, twice. Despite everything, Maya felt a flicker of humor. You were watching? I'm always watching. He pushed the plate toward her. Eat. We have much to discuss, and you'll need your strength. Maya wanted to refuse on principle, but the burrata looked perfect, and she was hungry. She took a piece of bread, dragged it through the olive oil, and ate. It was, predictably, the best thing she'd tasted all week. 3 weeks ago, Victor began, his fingers tracing the stem of his wineglass. Someone began moving against my family. Small things at first. A shipment delayed, a warehouse fire, an accountant who suddenly decided to cooperate with federal investigators. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Then, yesterday, they made it personal. They went after my sister. Maya stopped chewing. She's safe, for now. Victor's eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw something raw beneath the controlled surface. But they sent a message. They're not interested in business negotiations. They want to destroy everything I've built, everyone I care about. I still don't understand what this has to do with me. Victor reached into his jacket and pulled out a photograph. He slid it across the table. Maya picked it up, her breath catching. It was her, leaving the museum where she worked. The photo had been taken from across the street, maybe a week ago. She was laughing at something on her phone, completely unaware she was being watched. They've been following you, Victor said quietly, for 10 days now. Different men, different vehicles, but always there, always watching. Maya's hands went cold. Why? I'm nobody. I don't have anything to do with whatever world you're part of. You're not nobody to me. The words hung in the air between them. Maya looked up from the photograph, her heart hammering. We've never met before tonight. No, Victor agreed. But 6 months ago, you did something that saved my nephew's life. You probably don't even remember it. Maya's mind spun backward. 6 months ago. Spring. She'd been walking through Central Park after work, taking the long way home because the weather was perfect and her apartment was lonely. She'd heard shouting near the Bethesda fountain. A teenager surrounded by 3 older boys, the situation escalating toward violence. She'd done what her grandmother taught her. She'd intervened, not physically, but loudly. She'd pulled out her phone, started recording, called out that she was calling the police. The older boys had scattered. The teenager had mumbled thanks and disappeared before she could ask if he was okay. The fountain, she whispered. Victor nodded. My nephew, Marco. He'd snuck away from his security detail because he wanted to feel normal for an afternoon. Those boys would have hurt him badly or worse if you hadn't stepped in. You didn't know who he was. You just saw someone who needed help. And you helped. That's what anyone would do. No, Victor said firmly. It's what you did. And when I learned about it, when I saw the footage from the park cameras and tracked you down, I made sure you were protected. Quietly. From a distance. I made sure your rent stayed affordable when your building was bought out. I made sure you got the promotion at the museum when your supervisor tried to give it to his girlfriend. I made sure you were safe. Maya felt dizzy. You've been manipulating my life. I've been protecting it. Victor's voice was hard now. And I'd do it again. But now my enemies have noticed my interest. They've seen my people watching over you. And they've decided your leverage. So this is my fault? Anger flared in Maya's chest. I helped a kid, and now I'm a target? This is my fault, Victor corrected. And the self-recrimination in his voice was startling. I should have been more careful. I should have kept my distance. But I didn't. And now you're in danger because of me. So I'm giving you a choice. He leaned forward, and Maya caught the scent of his cologne. Something dark and woody, cedar and smoke. Option 1. I put you on a plane tonight. New identity, new life, enough money to start over anywhere in the world. You'll be safe, but you'll never come back to New York. Never see your friends, your job, your life again. Maya's throat tightened. And option 2? You stay. You let me protect you properly, not from the shadows, but openly. You move into my home where my security can keep you safe. You become, to the outside world, someone important to me, someone under my protection. His dark eyes searched hers. You become mine, Maya. At least until this war is over. You're asking me to pretend to be your, what? Your girlfriend? I'm asking you to trust me with your life. The label doesn't matter. The protection does. Maya looked around the restaurant, at the men in suits who sat like statues, at the empty tables that should have been full on a Friday night. She thought about her apartment, her job, her carefully constructed ordinary life. She thought about her grandmother's voice. You're stronger than you know. If I say yes, she said slowly, I need rules, boundaries. This is a business arrangement, not whatever you need, Victor interrupted. Your own room, your own space. I won't touch you without permission. You have my word, the word of a criminal. Victor's smile was sharp. The word of a man who keeps his promises. Always. Outside, lightning flashed, illuminating the restaurant in stark white light. Thunder followed, a deep rumble that Maya felt in her chest. The storm was getting worse. She thought about running, about option one, about disappearing into a new life where she'd always be looking over her shoulder, always wondering if she'd been found. Or she could stay. She could step into this dangerous world with a man who looked at her like she was both precious and powerful. She could be brave the way her grandmother had been brave, coming to a new country with nothing but determination and hope. Okay, Maya heard herself say. I'll stay. But we do this my way, with my rules. Victor extended his hand across the table. Your rules. I agree. Maya took his hand. His grip was warm, strong, and when his thumb brushed across her knuckles, just once, barely a touch, she felt electricity race up her arm. Then we have a deal, Maya Chen. Victor's voice was soft, almost gentle. Welcome to my world. I promise I'll keep you safe. As if in response, the restaurant's lights flickered. One of Victor's men appeared at the table, leaning down to whisper urgently in his ear. Victor's expression darkened. What is it? Maya asked. Victor stood, buttoning his jacket with swift, controlled movements. They know you're here. We need to move. Now. He extended his hand again, and this time, Maya took it without hesitation. As Victor led her toward the back of the restaurant, his body positioned protectively between her and the door, Maya realized the ordinary world had already disappeared behind her. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one she'd just walked into. And somewhere in the darkness, someone was watching, waiting, planning their next move in a game where Maya had just become the most valuable piece on the board. The SUV's interior smelled like leather and gun oil. Maya sat in the back seat, pressed between Victor on her right and a wall of reinforced door on her left. Two men occupied the front seats, silent and alert, their eyes constantly scanning the rain-soaked streets through windows that Maya now realized were probably bulletproof. Where are we going? She asked, hating how small her voice sounded. Somewhere safe. Victor's attention was fixed on his phone, his thumb moving rapidly across the screen. My home. The penthouse in Tribeca. Maya had a sudden absurd thought about what she was wearing. A simple black dress that was now damp from the rain, heels that pinched her toes, her grandmother's clutch that contained exactly one lipstick, her keys, and her phone. Everything else she owned was in her Brooklyn apartment. Her clothes, her books, the painting her mother had given her before the cancer took her. My things, she said. I need... Already being handled. Victor glanced up from his phone. I have people at your apartment now, packing what you'll need. They'll bring everything to the penthouse within the hour. The casual efficiency of it should have been reassuring. Instead, it made Maya's skin prickle. You have people in my apartment right now? Going through my stuff? Would you prefer to go back yourself? With whoever's watching your building waiting for exactly that? Maya bit back her response. He was right, and they both knew it. But the loss of control, the sudden vertigo of having her life picked up and moved without her consent, it made her want to scream. Victor must have seen something in her face because his expression softened fractionally. I know this is overwhelming. I know you didn't ask for any of this. But right now, your safety is the only thing that matters. Everything else, we'll figure out together. The word together did something strange to Maya's chest. She looked away, watching the city blur past. They were moving fast, taking turns that seemed random but probably weren't, losing any tail, making sure they weren't followed. Tell me about them, she said. Whoever's after you, after us now. Victor was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made Maya understand. This wasn't just business for him. This was personal. His name is Dmitry Volkov, Russian. He came to New York 5 years ago with ambitions of taking over the entire East Coast operation. He's smart, ruthless, and he doesn't care about the old rules, the ones that kept civilians out of our wars, the ones that protected families. You have rules? Maya couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. We have codes, lines we don't cross. Or we did, until men like Volkov decided those lines were weaknesses to exploit. Victor's jaw tightened. 3 months ago, he approached me with a proposal. He wanted to merge our operations, with him in control. I refused. Since then, he's been systematically dismantling everything I've built, but it's not enough for him to win. He wants to destroy me completely. He wants to take everything I care about and burn it in front of me. The SUV turned into an underground parking garage, descending into darkness before emerging into a pristine, well-lit space. They pulled into a spot near an elevator marked private. The driver and the front passenger exited first, scanning the area before Victor's door opened. "Stay close to me," he said, and Maya felt his hand settle on the small of her back as they moved toward the elevator. The touch was professional, protective, but Maya felt it like a brand through the thin fabric of her dress. She was acutely aware of him beside her, his height, his controlled power, the way everyone in the garage seemed to fade into the background when he was near. The elevator required a key card and a fingerprint. It rose silently, and Maya watched the numbers climb. 20 floors, 30, 40. They didn't stop until 52. The doors opened directly into the penthouse. Maya stepped out and forgot to breathe. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the entire space, offering a panoramic view of Manhattan that made the city look like a constellation of lights spread out beneath them. The storm raged against the glass, rain streaking down in rivulets. But inside, everything was warm and quiet and impossibly elegant. The decor was modern, but not cold. Dark wood floors, cream-colored furniture, art on the walls that Maya recognized from her work at the museum. A Rothko, a Basquiat, a small Monet that should have been in a private collection in Paris. "You stole that," she said, pointing at the Monet. Victor smiled. "I acquired it. There's a difference. Not legally. I don't operate in the legal world, Maya. I thought we'd established that." A woman appeared from a hallway to the left, older, perhaps 60, with silver hair pulled back in an elegant bun and kind eyes that assessed Maya with professional interest. "This is Teresa," Victor said. "She manages the household. Anything you need, she'll provide." "Welcome, Miss Chen," Teresa said, her voice warm with a slight accent Maya couldn't place. "I've prepared the guest suite for you. Your belongings should arrive shortly, but I've laid out some clothes in case you'd like to change." "Thank you," Maya managed. "Teresa, make sure Maya has everything she needs. I have calls to make." Victor turned to Maya, and for a moment, something vulnerable flickered across his face. "I know this isn't what you wanted, but you're safe here. I promise you that." Then he was gone, disappearing down another hallway with 2 of his men, leaving Maya standing in the middle of a penthouse that cost more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes, wearing a damp dress and wondering what the hell she'd agreed to. "Come," Teresa said gently. "Let me show you your room. You must be exhausted." The guest suite was larger than Maya's entire apartment. A king-sized bed dominated the space, dressed in white linens that looked impossibly soft. French doors opened onto a private balcony, though Maya couldn't imagine going out there in this storm. The attached bathroom was all marble and gold fixtures, with a tub big enough to swim in. On the bed, Teresa had laid out clothes, soft pajamas, a cashmere robe, slippers, all in Maya's size. "How did he know?" Maya asked. Teresa smiled. "Mr. Kane is very thorough. He's been aware of you for some time." That's a polite way of saying he's been stalking me. That's a harsh way of saying he's been protecting you." Teresa moved to the windows, adjusting the curtains. "I've worked for Victor for 15 years, Miss Chen. I've seen him with many women, but I've never seen him look at someone the way he looked at you tonight, like you were something precious he was afraid of breaking." Maya sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted. "I helped his nephew. That's all this is. Repaying a debt. If you believe that, you haven't been paying attention." Teresa moved toward the door, then paused. "He's a complicated man, Miss Chen. He's done things I'm sure you'd find unforgivable, but he's also saved more lives than you can imagine. He's protected this neighborhood, these people, when no one else would. The world isn't as simple as good and evil. Sometimes it's just people trying to survive and protect what they love." After Teresa left, Maya stood at the window, looking out at the storm-ravaged city. Lightning illuminated the skyline, and for a moment, she could see all the way to Brooklyn, to the neighborhood where her grandmother had built a life from nothing. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Enjoying your new cage, little bird. Don't get too comfortable. Glass breaks so easily." Maya's blood went cold. She ran to the door, yanking it open. "Victor!" He appeared within seconds, his jacket discarded, his shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars that told stories Maya wasn't sure she wanted to know. "What happened?" His eyes scanned her, checking for injury. She held out her phone. Victor read the message, and his expression went from concerned to absolutely murderous in the space of a heartbeat. "How did they get my number?" Maya's voice shook. "How do they know I'm here?" Victor's hand closed around her phone, his knuckles white. "They don't. They're guessing, trying to scare you." He looked at her, and the fury in his eyes was tempered by something else, something that looked almost like fear. "Did it work? Are you scared?" Maya thought about lying, about being brave, but she was tired of pretending. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm terrified." Victor stepped closer, and Maya could smell cedar and smoke and something uniquely him. "Good. Fear keeps you careful. But know this, Maya. They will never touch you. They will never get close enough to breathe the same air as you. I will burn this city to the ground before I let anyone hurt you." The intensity in his voice should have frightened her more. Instead, it made her feel something she hadn't expected. Safe. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you care so much? I'm just someone who helped your nephew. That doesn't explain this. Any of this." Victor's hand came up, and for a moment, Maya thought he might touch her face, but he stopped himself, his fingers curling into a fist before dropping to his side. "Because when I watched that footage from the park, when I saw you step between Marco and those boys without hesitation, without knowing who he was or what it might cost you, I saw something I thought had been beaten out of the world. I saw courage, real courage. Not the kind that comes from having power, but the kind that comes from choosing to do what's right, even when you're powerless." His voice dropped to barely above a whisper, and I realized I'd spent 15 years building an empire, and I'd never met anyone who made me want to be better than what I am. Until you. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. "Victor, get some rest," he said, stepping back, rebuilding the professional distance between them. "Tomorrow we'll talk about security protocols, about how we handle this. Tonight, just sleep. You're safe here." He turned to leave, and Maya heard herself say, "Wait." Victor paused in the doorway. "Thank you," Maya said, "for being honest, for not pretending this is something it's not." Victor looked back at her, and the expression on his face was so raw, so unguarded, that Maya felt like she was seeing something she wasn't supposed to see. "I'm many things, Maya. A criminal, a killer, a man who's made choices I can never take back. But I've never lied to you, and I never will." Then he was gone, and Maya was alone in her gilded cage, listening to the storm rage outside, and wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life, or if maybe, impossibly, she'd just found something worth fighting for. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a disoriented moment, she thought she was in a hotel. Then memory crashed back. The restaurant, Victor, the message from Volkov's people, the penthouse that was now her prison. She sat up, her body aching from tension she'd carried even in sleep. The clock on the nightstand read 9:47 a.m. She'd slept for almost 10 hours, dreamless and heavy, her body shutting down from exhaustion. Her clothes had arrived. The closet that had been empty last night now held her entire wardrobe, organized by color and type, with a precision that made her uncomfortable. Someone had gone through her things, touched her clothes, decided what to bring and what to leave behind. She showered in the marble bathroom, letting hot water pound against her shoulders until her skin turned pink. When she finally emerged, wrapped in the cashmere robe, she found Teresa setting up breakfast on the balcony. "Good morning, Miss Chen. I hope you slept well. Please, call me Maya." She moved to the balcony doors, surprised to find them open. The storm had passed, leaving behind a crystalline autumn morning. The city stretched out below, beautiful and indifferent. "Is it safe to be out here?" "The balcony is secure. No sight lines from other buildings, and the glass is reinforced." Teresa poured coffee into a delicate cup. "Mr. Kane is in a meeting, but he asked me to tell you he'll join you for lunch if you're available." Maya sat, accepting the coffee gratefully. Do I have a choice? Teresa's smile was knowing. You always have a choice, dear. That's what makes you different from the others. What others? The women who've tried to capture Victor's attention over the years. They saw his power, his money, his influence. They wanted to possess those things. Teresa set down a plate of fresh fruit, pastries, and eggs that looked like they'd been prepared by a professional chef. You're the first one who looks at him and sees a man instead of a prize. Maya picked at a strawberry. I barely know him. You know enough. You're still here. After breakfast, Maya explored the penthouse. It was massive. 5 bedrooms, a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a gym that looked like it belonged in a professional training facility, and an office that was clearly Victor's domain. The door was open, and Maya couldn't resist looking inside. Dark wood desk, multiple monitors, a wall of filing cabinets that probably contained information on every operation Victor ran. And on the desk, almost hidden behind a stack of folders, a framed photograph. Maya stepped closer. The photo showed a younger Victor, maybe early 20s, standing with a woman who had his same dark eyes and sharp cheekbones. His sister, Maya guessed. They were laughing, caught in a moment of genuine joy that seemed impossible to reconcile with the controlled, dangerous man she'd met last night. That was taken in Naples. Victor's voice came from behind her. 15 years ago. Before we came to America. Before everything changed. Maya turned. Victor stood in the doorway, dressed more casually today in dark jeans, and a black Henley that emphasized the lean muscle of his frame. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes suggesting he hadn't slept. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to snoop. This is your home now. You're allowed to be curious. He moved into the office, picking up the photograph with careful hands. Her name is Isabella. She's the only family I have left. The only person in this world I'd die for. He paused, his eyes meeting Maya's. Until now, the weight of those words settled between them. Maya's mouth went dry. Victor, you can't. We barely know each other. I know you risked yourself for a stranger. I know you chose to stay when you could have run. I know that in the 16 hours since we met, you've shown more courage than most of the men who work for me show in a lifetime. He set down the photograph. And I know that somewhere in this city, Dmitry Volkov is planning his next move, and it will involve you. So yes, Maya, I would die for you, because you're under my protection, and I don't make that promise lightly. Maya's hands trembled. This is insane. Yesterday I was a normal person with a normal life, and now I'm in the middle of some mob war, and you're talking about dying for me like it's a reasonable thing to say. Nothing about this is reasonable. Victor's voice was quiet but intense, but it's real, and we have to deal with what's real, not what we wish was true. A knock on the door interrupted them. One of Victor's men, the driver from last night, entered with a tablet. Boss, we have a problem. Victor took the tablet, his expression darkening as he read. When? 20 minutes ago. They hit the warehouse in Red Hook, killed 3 of our guys, took the shipment. Casualties on their side? None. It was surgical. In and out before our backup arrived. Victor's jaw clenched. He handed back the tablet. Double security on all remaining locations. I want eyes on every entrance, every approach, and find out how they knew about that shipment. Someone talked. The man nodded and left. Victor stood silent for a moment, his hands braced on the desk, his head bowed. Maya could see the tension in his shoulders, the weight of leadership and loss. I'm sorry, she said softly, about your men. They knew the risks. We all do. But his voice was rough with something that might have been grief. Doesn't make it easier. Maya found herself moving closer, drawn by an impulse she didn't fully understand. Is there anything I can do? Victor looked up at her, and the vulnerability in his eyes was staggering. You're already doing it. You're here. You're safe. That's the only thing keeping me from doing something reckless right now. Like what? Like going after Volkov myself. Like starting a war that would burn through this city and leave bodies in the streets. He straightened, and Maya watched him rebuild his armor piece by piece. But I can't do that. Because I have responsibilities. People who depend on me. And now I have you to protect. I don't want to be the reason you hold back. If you need to, no. The word was sharp, final. You don't understand. You're not holding me back. You're the only thing keeping me human right now. The only thing reminding me that there's something worth protecting beyond power and territory. Before Maya could respond, Victor's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his entire body went rigid. When? A pause. Is she hurt? Another pause. Get her to the safe house. Now. I'm on my way. He ended the call and looked at Maya with eyes that had gone cold and deadly. Isabella. They found her. They tried to take her. Maya's blood turned to ice. Is she? She's alive. Her security got her out. But they're not going to stop, Maya. This is Volkov's play. He's going after everyone I care about. Trying to draw me out. Make me make mistakes. Victor grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. I have to go to her. Make sure she's safe. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. You stay here where... She's in danger because of me. Maya's voice was stronger than she felt. Because Volkov knows you're protecting me. The least I can do is face her. Let her know I'm real. That I'm not just some random person you're using as bait. Victor studied her for a long moment. You understand that where we're going, you'll see things. You'll learn things about what I do, who I am. Things you can't unknow. I already know who you are. You're a man trying to protect his family. That's enough for me. Something shifted in Victor's expression. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. All right, but you stay close to me. You don't leave my side. Understood? Understood. The safe house was in Queens, a nondescript brownstone on a quiet street that looked like every other house on the block. But Maya noticed the cameras, the reinforced door, the way Victor's men had positioned themselves at every corner. Inside, the house was sparse but functional. Isabella sat in the living room, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders despite the warmth of the day. She looked like Victor. Same dark eyes, same sharp features. But where Victor's face was hard with experience, hers was soft with youth. She couldn't have been more than 25. Vic, she said, standing as they entered. Then her eyes landed on Maya, and confusion flickered across her face. Who's this? Isabella? This is Maya Chen. Maya, my sister Isabella. Isabella's eyes widened. The woman from the park. The one who saved Marco. That's me, Maya said, feeling awkward and out of place. Isabella crossed the room in 3 quick steps and pulled Maya into a fierce hug. Thank you. Thank you for saving him. He's just a kid, and those boys would have... Her voice broke. I'm glad I was there, Maya said, returning the embrace. When Isabella pulled back, there were tears in her eyes. Is this why Volkov's people tried to grab me? Because of her? No, Victor said firmly. This is because Volkov wants to hurt me, and he'll use anyone to do it. Maya's just another target now. Another person I have to protect. I'm not just another target, Maya said, surprising herself. I chose to be here. I chose to help Victor. That makes me part of this. Isabella looked between them, and a slow smile spread across her face. Oh, this is interesting. Bella, Victor warned. You like her. You actually like her. I can see it on your face. This isn't the time. When is the time, Vic? When Volkov kills one of us? When this war burns everything down? Isabella turned to Maya. He doesn't let people in. Ever. He's been alone since our parents died, building walls so high nobody could climb them. But you're here, in his home, meeting his family. That means something. Victor's phone rang again, cutting off whatever Isabella was about to say next. He answered, and Maya watched the color drain from his face. Show me, he said, his voice deadly calm. One of his men brought over a laptop, turning it so Victor could see the screen. Maya caught a glimpse of a video feed, a warehouse maybe, or a basement, and in the center of the frame, tied to a chair, was a man Maya didn't recognize. That's Michael, Isabella whispered. One of Vic's oldest friends, his second in command. On the screen, Dmitry Volkov stepped into frame. He was younger than Maya expected, maybe 40, with pale eyes and a smile that made her skin crawl. He spoke directly to the camera, his English accented but clear. Victor Kane, you've been avoiding me. That hurts my feelings. So I thought I'd give you some motivation to meet with me. You have 24 hours to come to the old brewery in Greenpoint. Alone. Or your friend Michael here will learn what happens to people who stand in my way. And after him, I'll work my way through everyone you care about. Your sister, your men, and that pretty little curator you've been hiding in your tower. 24 hours, Victor. Don't keep me waiting. The video ended. The room was silent except for Isabella's quiet crying. Victor stood perfectly still, but Maya could see the rage building in him, coiled and dangerous. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft and more terrifying than any shout. Get everyone to secure locations. All family, all key personnel. I want triple security on every site, and find out everything we can about that brewery. Exits, sight lines, possible ambush points. "Boss, you can't go," one of his men said. "It's obviously a trap." "Of course it's a trap. But if I don't go, Michael dies. And then Volkov will keep killing until I do what he wants." Victor's eyes were black with fury. "So I'm going. But I'm going on my terms." He turned to Maya, and the look on his face made her heart break. "I need you to stay here with Isabella. My men will protect you both. Whatever happens tomorrow, you'll be safe." "No," Maya said. "I'm not hiding while you walk into a trap." "Maya, you said I always have a choice. This is my choice. I'm not letting you face this alone. You don't understand what you're asking. If I take you there, if something goes wrong, then we face it together." Maya stepped closer, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. "You said I remind you that there's something worth protecting. Let me remind you that you're worth protecting too. You don't have to be alone in this." Victor's hand came up, and this time he didn't stop himself. His palm cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "You're going to get yourself killed," he whispered. "Maybe, but I'd rather die standing beside you than live knowing I let you face this alone." Isabella made a small sound, half laugh, half sob. "I like her, Vic. Don't screw this up." Victor's eyes never left Maya's face. 24 hours. That's all we have to prepare, to plan, to figure out how to survive this. "Then let's not waste time," Maya said. Outside, the sun was setting over Queens, painting the sky in shades of orange and red that looked like fire, and in a warehouse across the city, Dmitry Volkov watched his video play on repeat, smiling his terrible smile, counting down the hours until he could destroy everything Victor Kane had built. The war was coming, and Maya Chen, who'd been nobody special just 2 days ago, was about to walk into the heart of it beside a man who'd promised to keep her safe, even if it killed him. The old brewery in Greenpoint had been abandoned for 15 years, its windows broken and its walls covered in graffiti that told the story of a neighborhood that had moved on without it. But tonight, it was alive with a different kind of energy, the kind that came before violence, sharp and electric and inevitable. Maya stood in the back of the SUV, watching Victor's team make their final preparations. They'd spent the last 24 hours planning, strategizing, turning Volkov's trap into something they might survive. But Maya could see the tension in every man's shoulders, could feel the weight of what they were about to do. Victor had tried one more time to convince her to stay behind. She'd refused. So now she wore a bulletproof vest under a dark jacket, her hair pulled back, her grandmother's clutch replaced by a small bag, containing nothing but her phone and the pepper spray Victor had insisted she carry. "Remember the plan," Victor said, addressing his team. His voice was calm, controlled, but Maya had learned to read the tension in his jaw, the way his hands flexed when he was preparing for violence. "We go in 3 teams. Alpha enters from the front. That's what Volkov expects. Bravo takes the east entrance, Charlie the west. I go in the front with Alpha. Maya stays in the vehicle with the backup team until we've secured the interior." "No," Maya said. "We agreed I'd be with you." Victor turned to her, and the look in his eyes was pleading. "Maya, please, let me do this knowing you're safe. You'll do it better knowing I'm right behind you, that you're not alone." She stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "You said I remind you what you're fighting for, so let me be there. Let me be your reason to come back." Victor closed his eyes briefly, and when he opened them, Maya saw acceptance mixed with fear. "Stay behind me, always. If shooting starts, you hit the ground. You don't try to help, you don't try to be brave. You survive. That's your only job. Understand?" "I understand." He reached out, his hand finding hers, squeezing once. "If something happens to me, nothing's going to happen to you. If something happens," he continued, his voice firm, "you run. You let my men get you out. You don't look back. Promise me." Maya wanted to argue, but the intensity in his eyes stopped her. "I promise." "Good." Victor released her hand and turned back to his team. "Let's move." The brewery loomed against the night sky, a monument to industrial decay. Victor's team moved like shadows, splitting into their assigned groups, communicating through earpieces with hand signals and whispered codes. Maya stayed close to Victor, her heart hammering so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. The front entrance was a massive metal door, rusted and hanging crooked on its hinges. Victor's point man checked for traps, then pushed it open with a sound like a dying animal. Inside, darkness swallowed them whole. Victor pulled out a flashlight, the beam cutting through the gloom. The interior was vast, a cathedral of broken machinery and collapsed catwalks. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness, each drop echoing like a countdown. "Volkov!" Victor's voice rang out, strong and unafraid. "I'm here. Let Michael go, and we'll talk." For a long moment there was only silence. Then lights blazed to life, blinding and sudden, illuminating the center of the brewery where Michael hung suspended from chains, his face bloody and swollen. And standing beside him, surrounded by at least 20 armed men, was Dmitry Volkov. "Victor Kane," Volkov said, his voice carrying across the space with theatrical pleasure. "You actually came. I'm impressed. I thought perhaps you'd send your men to die in your place. But here you are, walking into my trap like a good little soldier." "Let him go," Victor said, his gun trained on Volkov. "This is between us." "Is it?" Volkov's smile was cruel. "I don't think so. I think this is about so much more. This is about showing everyone in this city that you're not untouchable, that the great Victor Kane can be hurt, can be broken." His eyes shifted, finding Maya in the shadows behind Victor. "And you brought her, the little curator. How romantic." Maya felt Victor tense, felt the protective fury radiating from him. "She has nothing to do with this," Victor said. "She has everything to do with this. She's your weakness, the crack in your armor." Volkov gestured, and 2 of his men moved toward Maya. Victor's gun swung toward them. "Touch her and you die. Right here. Right now. You'd start a war over a woman you've known for 2 days?" Volkov laughed. "This is better than I imagined. I'd start a war over anyone under my protection. That's what you never understood, Volkov. This isn't about power. It's about honor, about keeping your word, about protecting the people who depend on you. Honor." Volkov spat the word like it was poison. "Honor is what weak men hide behind when they don't have the strength to take what they want. I don't need honor. I have power. And after tonight, I'll have your empire too." He raised his hand, and Maya saw what was about to happen a second before it did. She saw Volkov's men reaching for their weapons, saw Victor's team doing the same, saw the moment before chaos when everything hung in terrible balance. "Victor!" she screamed. The brewery exploded into violence. Gunfire erupted from every direction, muzzle flashes lighting up the darkness like lightning. Victor grabbed Maya, pulling her behind a concrete pillar as bullets sparked off metal and shattered ancient glass. His body covered hers, his weight pressing her into the ground, protecting her with his own flesh. "Stay down," he shouted over the deafening noise. Maya couldn't see anything beyond Victor's shoulder, couldn't hear anything but the endless percussion of gunfire. She felt him tense above her, felt him return fire with controlled precision, felt the heat of spent casings raining down around them. Then, as suddenly as it started, the shooting stopped. Maya's ears rang in the silence. Victor slowly lifted his weight off her, his gun still raised, his eyes scanning for threats. Around them, the brewery was a war zone. Bodies lay scattered. Some of Volkov's men, some of Victor's. Maya couldn't tell how many. Couldn't process the reality of death surrounding them. "Michael," Victor said, and Maya heard the grief in his voice. She looked toward the center of the brewery. Michael still hung from the chains, but his head was bowed, his body still. A red stain spread across his chest. Volkov was gone, vanished in the chaos. "Boss," one of Victor's men called out. "We need to move. Police will be here in minutes." Victor helped Maya to her feet, his hands checking her for injuries with swift efficiency. "Are you hurt?" "No, I'm okay." But she wasn't okay. She was shaking, her mind struggling to process what she'd just witnessed. "Michael is gone." Victor's voice was hollow. "And Volkov escaped, which means this isn't over." They moved through the brewery, Victor's remaining men forming a protective circle around them. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The SUVs were waiting, engines running. "Get her out of here," Victor told his driver. "Take her back to the penthouse. Maximum security." "What about you?" Maya asked. "I have to clean this up. Make sure none of my people get caught. Make sure Michael's family is taken care of." He cupped her face with both hands, his eyes intense. "You did good tonight. You were brave. But this is my world, Maya. This is what I do. And I need to know you can handle it, that you can live with what you saw." Maya thought about lying, about being strong, but she was done pretending. "I don't know if I can," she whispered. I don't know if anyone should be able to live with this. Victor's expression cracked, showing the pain beneath. I know. God, I know. This is why I tried to keep you away. Why I wanted you to run. Because this is what my life is. Violence and death and choices that leave scars. But you do it to protect people. Your family, your community. That has to mean something. Does it? Michael's dead. Good men on both sides are dead. And for what? Territory? Pride? The endless cycle of revenge? Victor's hands dropped from her face. Maybe Volkov's right. Maybe honor is just what weak men hide behind. No. Maya grabbed his jacket, forcing him to look at her. Honor is what keeps you from becoming him. It's what makes you care about casualties, about protecting civilians, about having rules in a world without laws. Don't let him take that from you. Victor stared at her, and Maya saw something shift in his eyes, saw him pull himself back from whatever dark edge he'd been approaching. Get her home, he told his driver. Then, to Maya, we'll talk when I get back, about what happens next, about whether you still want to be part of this. I'm not going anywhere, Maya said. You might change your mind when the adrenaline wears off, when you realize what you've gotten yourself into. The sirens were close now, maybe 2 blocks away. Victor's men were already moving, disappearing into the night with practiced efficiency. Victor pressed a quick, hard kiss to Maya's forehead, the first time he'd kissed her, even in that chaste way, and then he was gone, running back into the brewery to do whatever dark work needed doing. Maya let the driver guide her into the SUV. As they pulled away, she looked back at the brewery, at the broken windows now lit by approaching police lights, at the scene of violence that would be sanitized and explained away by morning. She'd walked into Victor's world. She'd seen what he was capable of, what his life demanded of him. And despite the fear, despite the horror of what she'd witnessed, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She wasn't running. Not from this. Not from him. Because somewhere in the darkness of that brewery, between the gunfire and the death, she'd realized something terrifying and true. She was falling for Victor Kane, for the man who protected his people with ruthless efficiency, for the man who'd covered her body with his own without hesitation, for the man who carried the weight of his choices like a crown of thorns and never asked for sympathy. The SUV carried her through the streets of Brooklyn, back toward Manhattan, back toward the penthouse that was becoming home. And Maya sat in the darkness, her hands still shaking, her mind replaying the moment Victor had covered her, protected her, chosen her safety over his own. She'd promised her grandmother she'd be strong. She'd promised herself she'd be brave. Now she had to figure out if she was strong enough and brave enough to love a man whose world was built on violence, whose enemies would always be circling, whose life might end in a brewery or a warehouse or a dark street with no warning. The city lights blurred past, and Maya closed her eyes, feeling the ghost of Victor's kiss still burning on her forehead, and wondered if love was supposed to feel this much like falling. Victor didn't return to the penthouse until dawn. Maya had spent the night curled up in the library, unable to sleep, watching the city transition from night to day through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She'd changed out of the clothes she'd worn to the brewery, clothes that smelled like gunpowder and fear, and into soft pajamas that felt absurdly normal after everything that had happened. She heard him before she saw him. The elevator doors opening, his footsteps in the hallway, slower than usual, heavier. When he appeared in the library doorway, Maya's breath caught. He looked exhausted. His shirt was stained with blood. Not his own, she hoped, and his face was drawn with the kind of weariness that came from carrying too much for too long. But when he saw her, something in his expression softened. "You're still awake," he said. "I couldn't sleep." Maya stood, setting down the book she'd been pretending to read. "Are you hurt?" "No. The blood isn't mine." Victor moved into the room, collapsing onto the sofa with a heaviness that suggested his body was finally giving in to exhaustion. "Michael's family has been taken care of. His wife and kids are in a safe location with enough money to start over somewhere far from here. The police have the brewery scene. They'll call it gang violence, close the case without looking too deep. And my men are accounted for. The ones who made it out, anyway." Maya sat beside him, close but not touching. "How many did you lose?" "4. Good men. Men with families." Victor's voice was rough. 4 more names on a list that's already too long. "I'm sorry. So am I." He turned to look at her, and Maya saw the weight of every choice, every death, every compromise etched into his features. "You should have run, Maya. You should have taken the out I offered you. Instead, you're here, sitting with a man who has blood on his hands and enemies who won't stop until everyone he cares about is dead. I'm here because I choose to be here. Maya reached out, taking his hand. His fingers were cold, and she wrapped both her hands around his, trying to warm them. I saw what happened tonight. I saw the violence, the death, and I'm not going to lie and say it doesn't scare me. It terrifies me. But I also saw you protect your people. I saw you risk everything to try to save Michael. I saw you cover my body with yours without hesitation. That's who you are, Victor. Not just the violence. The protection, the loyalty, the honor you think you've lost. Victor's thumb brushed across her knuckles, the same gesture from that first night in the restaurant. Volkov's still out there. He'll come after us again. After you. This isn't over. I know. But we'll face it together. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. You don't understand what you're signing up for. A life where you're always looking over your shoulder, where you can't trust anyone outside a small circle, where any moment could be your last. Then teach me. Show me how to survive in your world. Because I'm not leaving, Victor. I'm not running. You're stuck with me. For the first time since he'd returned, Victor smiled. It was small, tired, but genuine. You're insane. You know that? Maybe. Or maybe I just see something worth fighting for. Victor pulled her closer, and Maya went willingly, tucking herself against his side. He wrapped his arm around her, and they sat like that as the sun rose over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink that seemed impossible after the darkness of the night before. I need to tell you something, Victor said after a long silence, about why I really brought you into my home, why I've been so determined to protect you. Maya tilted her head to look up at him. I'm listening. When I saw that footage from the park, when I watched you step between Marco and those boys, I didn't just see courage. I saw my mother. His voice was soft, distant with memory. She died when I was 17, killed by a rival family because my father refused to back down from a territorial dispute. She was innocent. She had nothing to do with the business, but they killed her anyway, just to hurt him. And it worked. It broke him. He became reckless, violent, consumed by revenge. Within a year, he was dead too. Killed in a war he started, but couldn't finish. Maya's heart ached for the boy he'd been, for the losses he'd carried. Isabella was only 12, Victor continued. So I stepped up. I took over what was left of my father's organization. I rebuilt it, made it stronger, made it mine. But I promised myself I'd never let what happened to my mother happen to anyone else under my protection. I'd never let innocent people get caught in our wars. That's why I have rules, why I try to keep civilians out of it, why I've spent 15 years building something that's more than just violence and territory. And then you saw me, Maya said quietly. And then I saw you, stepping in to help a stranger, risking yourself without hesitation, just like my mother would have done. And I thought, his voice broke slightly, I thought if I could protect you, if I could keep you safe, maybe it would balance the scales somehow. Maybe it would prove that I'm not just my father's son, that I can be something more than what this life made me. Maya turned in his arms, kneeling on the sofa so she could face him fully. Victor Kane, you are not your father. You're not defined by his choices or his mistakes. You're defined by your own choices. And every choice I've seen you make has been about protecting people, about honoring your word, about trying to be better than what the world expects from you. Victor's hand came up, cupping her face with a tenderness that made her chest tight. How are you real? How do you look at me, at what I am, what I do, and still see something worth saving? Because I see you, not the mob boss, not the criminal. You, the man who keeps a picture of his sister on his desk, the man who makes sure his nephew can feel normal for an afternoon, the man who spent 15 years protecting a neighborhood that everyone else forgot. That's who you are. Victor's eyes searched hers, and Maya saw the moment he stopped fighting, stopped holding back. His hand slid into her hair, and he pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. I'm going to fall in love with you, he whispered, if I haven't already, and it's going to complicate everything. It's going to make me vulnerable in ways I can't afford, but I don't care anymore. I don't care about the smart play or the strategic choice. I just want you, in my life, in my home, in my heart. Maya's eyes burned with tears she didn't try to hide. And stop fighting it. Stop trying to protect me from yourself. I'm right here, Victor. I'm not going anywhere. He kissed her then. Soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid she might disappear. But Maya kissed him back with all the emotion she'd been holding in, all the fear and hope and desperate certainty that he, was worth the risk. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Victor pressed his lips to her forehead, her cheeks, her closed eyelids, like he was memorizing her through touch. "I can't promise you safety," he said. "I can't promise you normal, but I can promise you this. I will fight for you every day. I will protect you with everything I have, and I will never, never take you for granted." "That's all I need," Maya said. "That and coffee. I really need coffee." Victor laughed, the sound surprised and genuine and beautiful. "I think I can manage that." They spent the morning together, drinking coffee on the balcony as the city woke up below them. Victor made calls, reorganizing his security, checking on his people, beginning the work of rebuilding after the losses of the night before. But between each call, he'd reach for Maya's hand, or pull her close, or just look at her like he couldn't quite believe she was real. Isabella arrived around noon, bursting into the penthouse with the energy of someone who'd heard the news and needed to see the evidence with her own eyes. "You're alive," she said, hugging Victor fiercely. Then she turned to Maya. "And you're still here. You're actually still here." "Where else would I be?" Maya asked. "Running for the hills. That's what any sane person would do." Isabella grinned. "I like you more and more." They had lunch together. Teresa outdid herself with pasta and fresh bread and a salad that tasted like summer. Marco joined them, the teenager Maya had saved in the park, now looking at her with a mixture of awe and gratitude that made her uncomfortable. "You're the one," he kept saying. "The one who saved me. And now you're with Uncle Vic. That's so cool." "I'm not with him exactly," Maya started, but Victor's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. "Yes," he said firmly. "She is." Maya's heart did something complicated in her chest. She squeezed back. After lunch, Victor took Maya to his office. "I want to show you something." He opened one of the filing cabinets and pulled out a folder. Inside were documents, property deeds, bank statements, legal papers Maya didn't fully understand. "This is the community center in the neighborhood where I grew up," Victor explained. "I bought the building 5 years ago when the city was going to tear it down. Now it provides after-school programs, job training, meals for families who need them. It's funded entirely through my less legal enterprises." He pulled out another folder. "This is a scholarship fund for kids from low-income families. It's sent 32 students to college so far." Another folder. "This is a network of safe houses for women escaping domestic violence. We help them disappear, start over, get protection from their abusers." Maya looked at the folders, at the evidence of a man who'd taken blood money and turned it into something that helped people. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I want you to know what you're fighting for, what we're protecting. It's not just territory or power. It's all of this. The people who depend on me. The lives that are better, because I chose to use my influence this way instead of just hoarding it." Victor's voice was intense. "Volkov doesn't care about any of this. If he takes over, all of it disappears. The community center gets sold to developers. The scholarships dry up. The safe houses close. And the people I've protected for 15 years are left vulnerable. So we don't let him win," Maya said simply. "We fight. We protect what matters. Together." Victor pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "Together," he agreed. The weeks that followed were a strange blend of danger and domesticity. Victor increased security across all his operations. He moved key people to safe locations. He prepared for Volkov's next move while trying to give Maya some semblance of normal life. She went back to work at the museum, though now she had a security detail that followed her everywhere. She had dinner with Jen, who took one look at Maya's face and said, "Oh my God, you're in love with him." Maya didn't deny it. Volkov made his move on a Tuesday, not with violence this time, but with information. He leaked details about Victor's operations to the FBI, triggering investigations that threatened to bring down everything Victor had built. But Victor had been preparing for this. He had lawyers, accountants, layers of protection between his legitimate businesses and his illegal ones, and he had something Volkov didn't: loyalty. His people didn't turn on him. They didn't cooperate with investigators. They stood firm, and the investigation stalled. Frustrated, Volkov tried again, this time with a direct assault on one of Victor's warehouses. But Victor's security was ready. The attack was repelled, and 3 of Volkov's men were captured. Victor sent them back with a message. This ends now. Meet me. Neutral ground. We settle this, or we both lose everything." Volkov agreed. The meeting took place in a private room at a restaurant in Midtown, neutral territory controlled by neither family. Victor brought Maya, Isabella, and his top 3 men. Volkov brought his own people, including a woman Maya hadn't seen before, beautiful and cold-eyed and clearly dangerous. "Victor Kane," Volkov said, raising a glass of vodka. "You're harder to kill than I expected, and you're more persistent than I hoped," Victor replied. "But this has gone on long enough. We're both losing men, losing money, losing ground. The other families are watching, waiting to pick apart whoever survives. We keep fighting, we both end up dead or in prison. So what do you propose? We split the city? Become partners?" Volkov's tone was mocking. "No, I propose you leave. Take your operation to another city. I'll even help you establish yourself. Connections, introductions, a generous payment to cover your transition costs. But you leave New York. You leave my territory. And this war ends." Volkov studied Victor for a long moment. "And if I refuse? Then we keep fighting until one of us is dead. And I promise you, Dmitri, I will not be the one in the ground." The tension in the room was suffocating. Maya held her breath, waiting for Volkov's response. Finally, Volkov laughed. "You know what? I'm bored of New York anyway. Too cold, too crowded. I've been thinking about Miami. Better weather, better opportunities." He stood, extending his hand. "You have a deal, Kane. I leave. You help me establish myself in Florida, and we forget this unpleasantness." Victor stood, shaking Volkov's hand. But Maya saw the wariness in his eyes, the way he didn't fully relax even as the deal was made. "One more thing," Volkov said, his eyes sliding to Maya. "The girl, she's really worth all this? Worth risking your empire?" Victor's arm wrapped around Maya's waist, pulling her close. "She's worth everything." Volkov shook his head, smiling. "Then you're weaker than I thought, but that's your problem now, not mine." He left with his people, and the room exhaled collectively. "Do you trust him?" Isabella asked. "No," Victor said, "but I'll have people watching him. If he breaks the deal, we'll know. And next time, there won't be negotiations." Maya leaned into Victor's side, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "Is it really over? For now, there will always be another threat, another challenge. That's the nature of this life. But we survived this one, together." 3 months later, Maya stood in the penthouse library, looking out at the city that had become her home in ways she never expected. Volkov had kept his word. He'd moved his operation to Miami and hadn't caused any trouble in New York. Victor's empire had stabilized, grown even, as other families saw how he'd handled the threat, and Maya had found her place in this strange new world. She still worked at the museum, but now she also helped manage Victor's charitable operations. The community center, the scholarships, the safe houses. She'd thrown herself into making them better, more effective, more impactful. She'd also moved her things into Victor's bedroom. Not the guest suite anymore, but his space, their space. She heard him before she felt him, his arms wrapping around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how different my life is now. 3 months ago, I was going on terrible blind dates and living in a tiny apartment and thinking that was all there was. And now you're living with a criminal and dodging FBI investigations and attending meetings with mob bosses." Maya turned in his arms, smiling up at him. "Now I'm living with the man I love, who happens to be a criminal, but who also happens to be the best man I know." Victor's expression softened. "I love you, Maya Chen. I love your courage, your compassion, your stubborn refusal to let me push you away. You've made me want to be better, to build something that's more than just power and fear, to create a legacy that's worth leaving behind." "I love you too," Maya said. "Even though you're complicated and dangerous, and sometimes infuriating, you're also kind and protective, and trying so hard to do right by the people who depend on you. That's the man I fell in love with." Victor kissed her, slow and deep, and Maya felt the same electricity she'd felt that first night in the restaurant, the same sense of standing at the edge of something vast and unknown, and choosing to jump anyway. When they pulled apart, Victor reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Maya's breath caught. "Victor, I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. I know we're still figuring this out, still learning how to navigate this life together." He opened the box, revealing a delicate necklace with a pendant shaped like a key. "But I want you to have this. It's a key to everything I have, everything I am. My home, my heart, my future. You already have them, Maya. This is just a reminder." Maya's eyes filled with tears as Victor fastened the necklace around her throat. The key settled just above her heart, warm from his hands. "Thank you," she whispered, "for letting me in, for trusting me with all of this. Thank you for staying, for not running when you had every reason to, for seeing something in me worth saving." They stood together as the sun set over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of orange and red that no longer looked like fire, but like hope. Below them, the city continued its endless rhythm, millions of lives intersecting, millions of stories unfolding. And in the penthouse that had become their sanctuary, Victor Kane and Maya Chen held each other, two people who'd found something precious in the most unlikely place. Love in the midst of chaos, light in the heart of darkness, and the courage to build a future together despite all the reasons they shouldn't. The rain that had fallen on that first night had washed away Maya's ordinary life. But in its place, she'd found something extraordinary, a man who'd been waiting his whole life for someone to see past his armor, and a love that was worth every risk, every danger, every impossible choice. Outside, the city lights began to glow, one by one, like stars coming out after a storm. And inside, Victor and Maya stood together, ready to face whatever came next. Together, always together. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more emotional and captivating stories. Don't forget to leave a comment telling me what you thought about Maya and Victor's journey, and let me know what part of the world you're tuning in from. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.